Hello dear student, welcome to the E-Pathshala in the Department of Physics, Shri RLT College of Science, Akola. This is our lecture number 2 in which we will discuss about the Bohr's atomic model. We will discuss Bohr atomic model and its application. Myself Shailesh Jaiswal, Assistant Professor, Department of Physics, Shri RLT College of Science, Akola. Now before going to start the Bohr atomic model and its application, just look our previous lecture, one view of our previous lecture. In the previous lecture, we see that the Rutherford atomic model. After the gold foil experiment, Rutherford proposed the planetary model of atom. Just like the solar system, the nucleus lies in the center of the atom and electron revolves around it in their orbits. But Rutherford fails to explain the stability of atom. We see the two major drawbacks. One is the stability of atom and the spectra which is emitted by the material. The revolution of electron in a circular orbit is not expected to be stable. Any particle in a circular orbit will undergo acceleration. During acceleration, charged particle will radiate the energy in the form of photon. Thus, the revolving electron will lose the energy and finally falls into the nucleus. If this were so, the atom should be highly unstable and hence matter will not exist in the form that we know. This is the first drawback as we discussed in the previous lecture. Second drawback, as the electrons spiral inward, their angular velocities and frequency will change continuously, and so will frequency of the energy emitted. Thus, they would emit a continuous spectrum in contrast to the line spectrum actually observed. This is a second drawback. So after the Rutherford, the next scientist, Neil Bohr, a Danish physicist, studied in Rutherford laboratory since 1912, and he successfully explained the spectrum of hydrogen atom and presented Bohr atomic model, and he was awarded a Nobel Prize in 1922. After the Rutherford model, Bohr successfully explained the atomic model. According to this Bohr's atomic model, they propose or gives the three postulates. First, electrons revolve around a nucleus in a definite energy level called orbit or shell in an atom without radiating energy. In our Rutherford model, this concept is not mentioned. So once again we repeat, the electrons revolve around the nucleus in definite energy level called orbit or shell in an atom without radiating energy. Second, as long as electron remain in a shell, it never gain or lose the energy. But in the Rutherford model, the atom is not stable because it radiates, according to the electromagnetic theory, it radiates the energy and finally falls on the nucleus, so atom is destroyed. But according to the Bohr model, as long as an electron remains in the shell, it never gain or lose the energy. Third postulate, the gain or loss of energy occur within the orbit only due to the jumping of electron from one energy level to the another energy level. According to the Bohr's atomic model, or if you see the previous model, the electron is a charged particle. According to the electromagnetic theory, when it is accelerated, then it radiates energy. But according to the Bohr's atomic model, the electron radiates energy only when it jumps from higher energy orbit to the lower energy orbit. So let's consider the higher energy orbit is n equals to 2 and lower energy orbit is n equals to 1. Okay. So energy absorbed by the atom is plus h nu and energy radiated by the atom is minus h nu. Okay, so electron gain or lost the energy only when it jumps from higher energy level to the lower energy level or lower energy level to the higher energy level. Otherwise, there is no loss or gain of the energy. These are the three main postulates of the Bohr. So once again we repeat here, the atom consists of a positively charged nucleus which is present at the center of the nucleus. Atom consists of a positively charged nucleus which is present at the atom, and the electron is revolving around it in a circular orbit in a definite shell without radiating energy. And the necessary centripetal force required for circular orbit is provided by the electrostatic force of attraction between the positively charged nucleus and the negatively charged electron. And as long as the electron remains in the shell, it never gain or lost the energy. And it gain or lost energy only when it jumps from the higher energy level to the lower energy level. The next postulate is also very important. The angular momentum MVR of an electron is equal to the nh by twice pi. It means that the electron revolving in those orbits for which the angular momentum of this electron is integral multiple of the h by twice pi. So angular momentum of an orbit depends upon its quantum number n and its integral multiple of the factor h cross, or we say as a h by twice pi. So that is angular momentum mvr equals to nh by twice pi. Mathematically we can write like that, where n equals to 1, 2, 3 and so on. Now here the application of Bohr atomic model. By using this Bohr theory, we can derive the radius of the Bohr orbit, energy of the orbit and wave number also. So now one by one we'll see. First we'll see about how the radius of the atom is found using this Bohr's concept. First, derivation of radius of an orbit of an atom. Consider an atom having an electron moving around the nucleus having a charge Ze, where Z is an atomic number. Let m be the mass, r be the radius of the orbit, and v is the velocity of revolving electron. According to Coulomb's law, the electrostatic force of attraction between the nucleus and electron F equals to Q1 Q2 by 4 pi epsilon r square. Okay, here Q1 is considered as a nucleus and the Q2 is considered as a revolving electron. So if you replace the Q1 by Zd, charge on nucleus, and Q2 is replaced by electron, charge on electron. So Zd into E by 4 pi epsilon naught r square. So Ze square by 4 pi epsilon naught r square, where epsilon naught is a vacuum permittivity which is constant having value epsilon naught equals to 8.84 into 10 to the power minus 12 Coulomb square per joule meter. Centrifugal force acting on electron is equals to mv square by r. Okay, so we know the for circular motion necessary centripetal force is required, which is provided by the electrostatic force of attraction between the positively charged nucleus and negatively charged electron. So therefore we can balance electrostatic force equals to the centripetal force. Thus the two forces are equal and balance each other. So therefore mv square by r equals to Zd square by 4 pi epsilon naught r square. Now 1r get cancelled here. See, 1r get cancelled. We get a mv square equals to Zd square by 4 pi epsilon naught r. Consider equation number 1. Then r is equals to Zd square by 4 pi epsilon naught. Now we want to find out the r, so we take the r from here for left hand side, and all the term in place in the right hand side. So we get r equals to Zd square by 4 pi epsilon naught mv square. Consider equation number 2. So according to the Bohr's postulate, angular momentum is integral multiple of h cross, nh cross. So mv square equals to, mvr equals to nh by twice pi. Consider as equation number third. So by using this equation number third, we rearrange this equation number third. V equals to nh by twice pi, and take m and r in the denominator for in the right hand side. So we get a V equals to nh by twice pi m into r. Now taking squaring on both sides, we get a V square equals to n square h square by 4 pi square m square r square. Consider the equation number 4. Now this is our equation number 4, is V square. Now put the value of V square in equation number second. See here, V square, r equals to z square by 4 pi epsilon m V square. Okay, put the value of V square in the equation number second. We'll get r equals to z square by 4 pi epsilon naught m into 4 pi square m square r square by n square h square. Now here m1 and 1 m cancel, 4 cancel, pi get cancel, and 1r here get also cancel from left hand side and right hand side. So we get z square pi mr equals to epsilon naught n square h square, or r equals to epsilon naught n square h square by z square pi m. So this is called as equation number 5, and this is the radius of the Bohr orbit. So in that way, by using this Bohr's theory, we find out the radius of this atom. So here epsilon naught h z e m, this factor are constant. Only variable is n, and n is a principal quantum number. So for hydrogen atom, z equals to 1. Okay. So we get equation r equals to epsilon naught n square h square by pi m e square. So finally we can written as r equals to n square into epsilon 0, or alpha 0, where alpha 0 is nothing but epsilon naught s square by pi m e square. So from that equation we conclude that the radius of the atom is directly proportional to the square of principal quantum number, directly proportional to the n square, the value of n equals to 1, 2, 3 and so on. So alpha naught is constant quantity, so alpha naught equals to epsilon naught h square by e square pi m. If you put the all value of this constant, we know the value of alpha naught, h, e, pi and m. If you put the all value, we get the answer 0.529 into 10 to the minus 10 meter, or 0.5 angstrom unit. So therefore, radius of orbit having n equals to 1 to 3 are as follow. By using this formula, we can calculate the radius of nth Bohr orbit in various shape, k, l, m, n and so on. So for n equals to 1, if you put n equals to 1, so 1 square is 1 multiplied by 0.5, we get this answer. In the similar way, we can find out the radius of an atom, okay, for different shell. So this is the first application to determine the radius of the atom by using the Bohr's theory. Now second is the derivation of energy of an electron in an orbit. So basically we know the formula of total energy. Total energy is nothing but the summation of total of kinetic energy plus potential energy. So we know the kinetic energy is half mv square, and the potential energy for that atom is minus z square by 4 pi epsilon naught r. Let's consider equation number 7. Okay. So after solving, here we get total energy equals to half mv square minus z square by 4 pi epsilon naught r. So from equation 1, we know the equation number 1 here. So from equation number 1, mv square equals to z square by 4 pi epsilon naught r. So this is our equation number 1. Using this equation here, okay, mv square by equals to zt square by 4 pi epsilon naught r. Put the value of in equation number 7. We know the equation number 7. mv square in kinetic energy factor, it equals to half mv square. So put the value of mv square here in equation number 7, half mv square. So put the value of mv square is equals to z square by 4 pi epsilon naught r. Okay, so we get it equals to z square by 2 into 4 pi epsilon naught r minus z square upon 4 pi epsilon naught r. Okay, so this become a z square 8 pi epsilon naught r minus z square 4 pi epsilon naught r. So z square by 4 pi epsilon naught r will take a common. So remaining is right inside the bracket 1 by 2 minus 1. So it's a minus half. So therefore, after solving, we get En is equals to minus z square by 8 pi epsilon naught r. So this equation considered equation number 8. And we also know the value of r, radius of Bohr orbit. Okay. So value of r. So now putting the value of r from equation number 5. So it's our equation number 5. Firstly, what we do here, we put the value of mv square in the equation number 7 of first term, mv square, and then after solving we put the value of r from equation number 5 in equation number 8. Then we'll get En equals to minus z square by 8 pi epsilon naught into z square pi m upon epsilon naught n square h square. So total energy En equals to minus z square e square m by 8 epsilon naught square n square h square. This is called as equation number 9, and this equation 9 gives the energy of the atom for nth Bohr orbit. So here equation number 6 gives the radius of Bohr orbit, and here equation number 9 gives the energy of Bohr orbit, nth Bohr orbit, using the Bohr's theory. So in the equation 9, z, e, m, epsilon and h are constant, only variable is n square. So we can written as En is inversely proportional to the square of principal quantum number. En is inversely proportional to 1 by n square. Okay, so now for taking for hydrogen atom, the atomic number of hydrogen atom is 1. So if you put a z equals to 1, we get equation En equals to minus m is e to the power 4 8 epsilon square n square s square. Okay, so m 8 to the power 4 8 epsilon naught square s square constant. So we can write as energy is inversely proportional to the principal quantum number. Okay, if you put the value of m, e, epsilon naught and h, you will get a value 2.1878 to 10 to the minus 18 joule. So in that way we can calculate the energy of nth Bohr orbit. Energy 1, 2, 3 for n equals to 1, 2, 3 and so on. The first energy level where n equals to 1 is called as ground state of hydrogen atom, and all other are called as excited state. So first energy state, if we put n equals to 1, we get energy E1 having values minus 131.315 kilojoule mole inverse. This energy state here we say as a ground state, and all other above energy state we say as a excited state. If n equals to 1 is we say as a first excited state, if n equals to 3 is we as a second excited state, and so on. So in that way we can find the energy of the Bohr orbit in the atom using the Bohr's theory of hydrogen atom. Derivation of wave number. So we know the frequency nu equals to C by nu inverse, or nu is nothing, nu inverse is nothing but a C by lambda, 1 by lambda, where C is the velocity of light. Putting the value of nu from equation 13 into the equation 14, we get nu bar C equals to m e to the power 4 upon 8 epsilon naught square 1 by n square minus 1 by n2 square. So after solving, we get the wave number nu bar equals to r into 1 by n1 square minus n2 square, and r is called as a Rydberg constant. So these three application of this Bohr model. Okay. Now we see the drawback of the Bohr atomic model. So Bohr atomic model explain the stability of atom, okay, and the energy radiation concept, but it has also some drawback. Let's see. First drawback. According to the Bohr, the radiation result when an electron jumps from one energy orbit to the another energy orbit, but he did not explain how this radiation occurs. This is the first drawback. Second, Bohr's theory explained the existence of various lines in the H spectrum, but it predicted that only a series of lines exist. Later on, it was realized that the spectral line that had been through to be a single line was actually a collection of several lines very close to each other. Third drawback, Bohr theory successfully explained the observed spectra of hydrogen atom and similar ions, but it cannot explain the spectra for polyelectron atom. Fourth drawback, if the substance which gives the line emission spectrum is placed in a magnetic field, the lines of spectrum get split up into a number of closely spaced lines. This phenomenon is known as Zeeman effect. The Bohr theory has no explanation for this effect. So in the absence of magnetic field, we observe the single line. Now the magnetic field take on, then this single line is split up into its constituent line, closely spaced line, number of closely spaced line. This effect is called as Zeeman effect, and the Bohr theory has no explanation for this effect. Similarly, if the substance which gives this emission spectra is placed in an external electric field, the line of the spectrum gets split up into the number of closely spaced lines. Similar to that, this phenomenon is known as star effect. So if the substance which gives the emission line spectrum which is placed in the magnetic field, we get a Zeeman effect, and if it's placed in a electric field, the phenomenon is called as Stark effect. In the both cases, Bohr theory has no explanation for this effect as well. Sixth disadvantage, Bohr suggested a circular orbit of the electron around the nucleus of hydrogen atom, but later it was proved that the motion of the electron is not in a single plane but takes place in the three-dimensional space. So these all are the drawback. Now the last drawback is the Bohr assumed that an electron in an atom is located at a definite distance from the nucleus and it revolves around it with a definite velocity. Distance is same, velocity is fixed. That is, it has a fixed momentum, because of momentum is a product of mass and velocity. So velocity is fixed, momentum is fixed. You know, it says also atom is located at a definite distance. So this has not agree with Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which stated that it is impossible to determine the exact position and momentum of a particle simultaneously with certainty. These are all the drawbacks of the Bohr's atomic model. सो फाइनली मैं यहाँ पे बताना चाहूँगा कि रुदरफोर्ड के बाद रुदरफोर्ड की जो ड्रॉबैक है उसको ओवरकम किया बोर्स थ्योरी ऑफ बोर्स एटॉमिक मॉडल ने। उसने पोस्टुलेट्स में बताया कि जो एटम है वो स्टेबल रहता है। वो स्टेबल इसलिए रहता है कि इलेक्ट्रॉन जो है वो न्यूक्लियस के अराउंड रिवॉल्व होता है सर्कुलर ऑर्बिट में, और सर्कुलर ऑर्बिट के लिए जरूरी होता है सेंट्रीपिटल फोर्स जो कि इलेक्ट्रोस्टैटिक फोर्स प्रोवाइड करता है पॉजिटिवली चार्ज न्यूक्लियस और नेगेटिवली चार्ज इलेक्ट्रॉन के बीच में, इसलिए वो एटम स्टेबल है। ओके, अब दूसरा जो था रेडिएशन का एनर्जी रेडिएशन का ड्रॉबैक, तो बोर्स ने बोला कि इलेक्ट्रॉन जो है वो कोई भी ऑर्बिट में रिवॉल्व नहीं होगा, वो एक डेफिनेट ऑर्बिट में ही रिवॉल्व होगा जिस ऑर्बिट का एंगुलर मोमेंटम ये इंट्रिकल मल्टीपल है प्रिंसिपल क्वांटम नंबर के, मीन्स एन एंगुलर मोमेंटम mv/r इक्वल्स टू nh/2 पाई। और उन्होंने आखिरी में बताया कि इलेक्ट्रॉन जो है वो रेडिएट कोई भी तरीके से नहीं करेगा, वो एनर्जी रेडिएट करेगा तभी रेडिएट करेगा जब वो एक ऑर्बिट में से दूसरे ऑर्बिट में जाएगा। The electron radiate energy only when it jumps from the higher energy orbit to the lower energy orbit in the form of photon having value h nu. Okay, और उस बोर्स थ्योरी का यूज करके, मतलब सेंट्रीपिटल फोर्स mv²/r इक्वल्स टू इलेक्ट्रोस्टैटिक फोर्स q1 q2 बाय 4πε0r², और जो सेकंड पोस्टुलेट्स है एंगुलर मोमेंटम mv/r इक्वल्स टू nh/2 पाई, और वो जो एनर्जी का कंसेप्ट है एनर्जी डिफरेंस डेल्टा E इक्वल्स टू E1 माइनस E2। तो ये होगी बोर्स थ्योरी, और यही बोर्स थ्योरी का यूज करके हमने उसके एप्लीकेशन देखे। एप्लीकेशन में देखा कि किस तरीके से बोर्स थ्योरी ऑफ हाइड्रोजन एटम का यूज करके ठीक है, ये हो गया हमारे बोर्स के पोस्टुलेट्स जो अभी थोड़ी देर के पहले हमने डिस्कस किए, और उसी थ्योरी का यूज़ करके यहाँ पे रेडियस, एनर्जी और वेव नंबर किस तरीके से निकाले हैं। उसकी रेडियस हमको मिली है, रेडियस इज डायरेक्टली प्रोपोर्शनल टू द स्क्वायर ऑफ प्रिंसिपल क्वांटम नंबर, एनर्जी इज इनवर्सली प्रोपोर्शनल टू द स्क्वायर ऑफ प्रिंसिपल क्वांटम नंबर, एंड फाइनली wave number is equals to r into 1 upon n1 square minus n2 square. So this is the application of Bohr's atomic model, and then finally we will see the drawbacks of atomic model. So in the next lecture we will discuss about the next model, the Sommerfeld atomic model, and then we start our real syllabus, vector atom model. Okay, so thank you very much for watching this video.